You're listening to Unlocked, Your Career by Design with Samantha Florence, Fortune 100 executive, billion-dollar business leader, and founder of Powerhouse Code. Here, you'll discover how to build authority, attract opportunities, and lead with authentic presence. If you're ready to claim your spotlight and step into your next level, you're in the right place. Let's unlock your career by design. Hello, and welcome back to Your Career by Design. If you've ever wondered why you're working harder than ever, but your career feels stuck in neutral, this is the episode for you. In this episode, I am going to talk about 3 career killers that keep even the most ambitious and competent professionals stuck. And this is not going to be about your effort, your performance. It's going to be about the habits and patterns that no one warns you about. Okay? It's also not about skill or performance. They're about the unseen dynamics that shape how you're perceived and how you lead. And why do I call it the career killers? Because over time, the longer you are not aware of these career killers, it will erode your confidence over time. It will lead to demotivation, frustration, and it will cost you credibility and opportunities over time. Now, this, of course, is not for everyone, but I see it in the majority of the cases. Like 90%, what I talk about on the podcast is relevant for 90% of professionals. Okay. And the first one I want to start with is a place most people never look: inside your own mindset. Exactly. So that is career killer number 1, the inner glass ceiling. Or, in other words, the limiting beliefs and identity gaps that quietly cap your potential. So the women I work with, the women I have had a pleasure to work with over my 18-year career, most of them focus their attention on external factors, on the glass ceiling, on not having the support from their manager or their leaders, or seeing other people progress quicker than them. But the unlock sits into the things that you can control. So not focusing your attention on external factors that you cannot control, but actually turning inward. So when I say the inner glass ceiling, I'm talking about self-doubt, overthinking, perfectionism, imposter syndrome. So these are, let's say, the inner glass ceiling, your own mindset that can keep you stuck in place. So, for example, have you ever had thoughts, I'm just not cut out for this? Whether it's a new job, a role, an assignment, or you feel like you're in a important meeting and you have to give a presentation, but then the imposter syndrome pops up. So you shy away from the presentation and you'd rather give it to somebody else. Because what will people think? You don't want to be in the spotlight. So these are examples of when the inner glass ceiling is at play, and you might unconsciously be limiting yourself from greatness, from being visible, from putting yourself out there, from showcasing your talent and your skills and your competencies. So again, I'm going to name what I mean with the inner glass ceiling. It's the mindset that keeps you stuck in place. It can show up as self-doubt, constantly questioning whether you should include this person in the email or not, or not trusting that you are able to perform at the level that others might see you're capable of, or not applying for the job description because you fit 95% of the requirements, but that's that 5% that makes you wonder, can I really do this? Overthinking. What do I need to say? What do I put in this email? Should I copy this person? Should I include him or her? Oh my goodness, why did this person react on me that way? Is that the feeling? Is that a way of thinking that I'm not good enough, et cetera, et cetera? So living in your head all the time, even outside of your 40-hour work week. So imagine you're working 40 hours, but you're overthinking before you go to work, after you get to work, after you get back from work, in the weekend, ruminating on conversations, on emails, on behaviors, of moods of others, and constantly thinking, did that person react on me because I did something or I said something? Or why did he make that comment? Am I the next in line to get, to be reviewed, whether I can get a promotion or not? So it's nitpicking every single word, every single email, every single behavior that you sense. And then we also have perfectionism in this bucket. So perfectionism is actually control in disguise. Perfectionism, wanting to check everything 3 times before you send out that email, or before you make the presentation, or before you hand it in scenario planning. And the question is, first of all, if perfectionism is showing up in your life or your career, that's question number one. And then the follow-up question is, if it is showing up in your career or your life, can you think of what the reason is behind that perfectionism? Because perfectionism, when you think about it, is actually a manifestation of something else. It can disguise the control that I just mentioned, that you want to be in control of everything. You want to make sure everything is perfect. It's your way or the highway. But perfectionism can also disguise fear. For example, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of failure. And so when you think about perfectionism, if it's showing up in your life or workplace, what is the root cause of that perfectionism? Because by being perfect or waiting for something to be perfect, a deliverable, a project, a presentation, is it subconsciously a way of delaying criticism or actually the fear of criticism? So it's something to think about. And I mean, it happens for especially high performing professionals, right? It's the way that our brain keeps us safe. But if you look at it, it's actually, in terms of ambitious, it's staying small. Because when you are battling self doubt, when you're battling perfectionism, limiting beliefs, imposter syndrome, constantly questioning yourself, you don't have the space to actually position yourself and put yourself out there for the opportunities that you deserve and that you know you're capable of. Because the internal battle in your mind is keeping you in a freeze mode, not flight, not fight, freeze. And on top of that, most of our attention goes to external factors. What is this colleague doing? Why did he or she get a promotion? Did he or she progress? Or my manager doesn't have my back? Or there are no open positions at my office. And that is normal. That is normal. But think about, where do you spend your energy on? Where does your energy flow? You cannot control external factors, but you can control internal factors. But that's the thing. Most of us focus so much on the external that we forget to see what we can do on the internal side. So that is a career killer number one. And I have personally battled this inner glass ceiling for a very, very, very long time. And just like many women I work with, many professionals I work with, all my attention was on the external because it's easy to blame external factors, to point fingers. It's not me. It's my manager that doesn't have my back. It's leadership that doesn't see my potential. Or there we go. That other colleague who is less qualified and less talented got promoted again. And it's very easy for our brains to divert the focus to external factors, whereas the unlock sits in the internal. And so I've been in corporate for 18 years, and I have to say, the bulk of my career, I had this inner glass ceiling that was the size of, I don't know, It was the number one factor of keeping me stuck and holding me back. But I didn't want to believe it. I didn't realize it because surely it's not me. Surely it's an external factor, right? And so as I progressed, I started to realize that. I started to realize the impact of the inner glass ceiling and the impact on mindset on career progression. How changing my mindset helped me go from stuck to moving forward again. And so that's why, and in the next episode, I will go deeper into why I created Powerhouse Code and what I do with the professionals in Elevate You. But a very important part of the work I do with women that work with me and that I work on daily myself is tricking my brain, honestly, tricking my brain to face fear and do it anyway. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, even fear of success, which I will dedicate an episode on. I will actually dedicate an episode on the F word, fear. Anyway, so it's a daily choice that I make that when I feel fear, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, I recognize it, I give it a place, and I use my tactics that I have created and developed in the Powerhouse Code to actively overcome that fear. Why? Because oftentimes fear is fear of something that hasn't even happened. But what we do know is when you let fear win, it will keep you stuck in the same place. And so when you think about, okay, that's very easy to say, Sam, but what does that actually mean? It means how can you look back at the evidence of when you felt fear and you did it anyway and you were successful? How can you reframe those limiting beliefs? What are some of the tactics you can use to chunk the fear down into smaller pieces instead of having or imagining that you have to climb the Mount Everest every single time? So that's curricular number one. And in my mind, it's very simple to influence and control the inner glass ceiling, but it's not easy. So it's simple because you have from yourself, you can influence, control it, work on it actively to get you closer to what you want and position you for the dream role, dream job, dream life even that you want. But it's not easy. It's actually, I think, one of the biggest things keeping humanity stuck and keeping people, professionals, entrepreneurs from achieving and going after their dreams. So that is career killer number one, the inner glass ceiling. Self-doubt, imposter syndrome, limiting beliefs, and all the things that our mind does to keep us safe, but is actually preventing us from moving forward. Okay, now let's talk about the second trap, the one that hides behind positive feedback. And I want you to think about a time that you had a performance review and it had such a significant impact on you. Can be positive or negative. And here's the thing that I want really people to understand about performance reviews. We live in a society where the education system is based on the harder you work, the better you study, the higher your grades. And the higher your grade is, you will advance to the next level, the next class. Now, most of us that are professionals have gone to at least 18 years of education, from primary school to high school, all the way up to university. And for many of us professionals, we enter the workplace with this conditioning of 18 years. And oftentimes, it even starts before that we get rewarded for positive behavior, that we get stickers when we are in preschool for positive behavior, right? And when we get stickers, we get recognized, we get seen, we get rewarded, and we advance to the next level, how that might show up as a 4-year-old, 15-year-old or 21-year-old in university. But that's how most of us are conditioned. So when we enter the workplace, how does that manifest? How does that translate? It translates into the performance review, the one moment in the year where you might show up to that meeting and hoping and praying and even expecting positive feedback because that translates to recognition, rewards, sometimes even worthiness, and an subconscious, perhaps, expectation that the higher, the better, the more glowing your performance review, that will automatically lead to a promotion, to advancement, to progression. Now, here's the thing. The workplace does not always work like that because the workplace isn't school. The workplace is not university. So unlike our educational system that scores you through a grading process, and the higher the grades, the better of a pupil or student you are, and therefore you can advance to the next class or get your distinctions, the workplace is different. And going back to the performance review, I want you to think about what is the meaning that you give to the performance review. What is the meaning the performance review has for you? And also, do you go in with expectations? Do you go in expecting a one-way conversation, or do you go in with expecting a dialogue? And the reason I'm really pausing on this performance review is because I hear so many professionals attaching a specific meaning to the performance review. For example, I have gotten the highest rating for 3 years in a row. Why am I not progressing? Does that sound familiar? Have you ever experienced that? And the reason that you're not progressing is because, unlike school, the performance review is not a rating to get you to the next level. The performance review is a rating of your current level. And I really want you to understand this. Having a great performance review, first of all, is great, but it's for your current job. It doesn't say anything about your next job, your next role, your next assignment. That's number one. That's the first fact that I really need you to understand. The second one is your performance review does not make you more or less worthy. Please do not tie your performance review to your worth. Okay? Because most performance reviews are subjective, not objective, because unless they're based on hard targets and numbers that you can quantify, most performance reviews are subjectives. Now, again, everything I'm sharing on this podcast is things that I have experienced myself, right? Being the best in the grading, highest scores on the performance reviews, best kept secret of the department. Why on earth am I not progressing? What am I missing? And so what I was thinking is, how can I get the highest performance review year on year, get only compliments, no room to improve, no constructive feedback, and still I am stuck in the same damn place? How does that work? So for years, I had this misconception that just like at school and in our education system, that a workplace worked the same. I'm here to tell you that it does not work the same. Okay? So to recap, your performance review is not the same as your report cards. It is a subjective moment of the year, in the year, that looks at your current performance of your current job. It does not automatically qualify you or position you for your next role, goal, or job. Okay? So I'll talk more about this in next episodes because it's really not the same. And then there is the third one, the one that is most rational perhaps, but is actually the most costly. Again, very simple, not specifically easy, but very simple. The third career killer is waiting to be chosen. Here's the thing that I see with so many professionals. Just like in career killer number one, the inner glass ceiling, that it's much easier to look at external factors and blame others, your manager, your company, the lack of promotion opportunities for why you're feeling stuck. It's the same thing with waiting to be chosen. We wait for signs of readiness. We wait for permission. We wait for the next opportunity to come find us. We might wait for somebody to tap us on the shoulder and say, "You're ready. You're the chosen one. I can see your potential." Right? Because it's much easier. It's much easier if somebody else has to make the decision for us, if somebody else needs to remind us of our greatness. And it's the same thing with a performance review. Why do so many people put so much weight on a performance review? Because the performance review is somebody else's assessment of you. But what is your own assessment of you? And where are you on choosing you and waiting to be ready? Because waiting for somebody to tap you on the shoulder, to give you permission to lead, to hand you the job that gives you the confidence that I have the title now, I have the salary now, I have the job description now. So now I have the permission for somebody else that tapped me on the shoulder to lead. Career killer number 3, waiting to be chosen. Can you imagine what shifts for you when you choose yourself, when you stop waiting for somebody else to tap you on the shoulder, for somebody else to say that you're ready, for somebody else to give you permission to lead? Now, I know what your brain is doing. Your brain is keeping you safe. So you're going to go through all the misconception and errors as to why this wouldn't work in your organization or your workplace. Because if I choose myself, I don't want to overstep, or my manager wants all the credit. He never showcases my talent and skills. I couldn't possibly lead without a title. I couldn't. And that's what the brain does. That's what the mindset does. So I challenge you to trick your brain, because your brain is trying to keep you safe. But you know what's on the other side of safe? It's opportunity. And I want you to imagine what becomes possible for you when you choose yourself first, before somebody hands you a job, before somebody taps you on the shoulder for a promotion, for a project, etc. What would shift for you? What would become possible for you when you choose yourself first? Okay. Again, playing it safe keeps you competent. It makes you an expert at your current job, at the role that you do now. It gives you probably high performance reviews, fairly highly rated performance reviews. But have you considered what would change for you if you choose to start playing it bold, making yourself visible, positioning yourself, leading without authority, leading without a title? Because that's what changed for me when I made a decision that I was going to start showing up as the leader that I wanted to be and act and behave as if I already had a title and a role. That's when things took off. And so the people who rise aren't always the most qualified. And I know that you know this, because one of the biggest frustrations I get from women in my community is seeing others progress that are not necessarily the most talented, the most qualified, or the hardest workers. But what are they then? Intentional, visible, and they don't let the inner glass ceiling get in their way. So, to recap, think about, for you, which one of the 3 career killers that I shared today are showing up the most for you right now. Is it the inner glass ceiling, the constant questioning, self-doubt, limiting beliefs, imposter syndrome? Or is it a glowing performance review trap? Putting so much weight on the performance review because you truly believe that your high rating will lead to promotions, to opportunities, to your next level career? And lastly, or is it playing it safe and waiting for somebody else to decide that you are ready, waiting for somebody else to give you permission? Because here's the thing, if you don't design your career intentionally, these patterns will design it for you. Can you imagine if these three career killers are constantly present? Well, actually, I'm saying career killer, but you know it's a life killer as well, like quality of life. Anyway, so these career killers, if they're constantly present, the inner glass ceiling, putting all your expectations, hope, feelings of worthiness on a performance review. And then third, playing it safe and waiting for somebody else to choose you before you choose yourself. What would be the outcome for you over the next 5 years if you keep those three career killers alive? And then flip it. Let's think about the other side. What would become possible for you? Can you imagine your career when you master the tactics to get your inner glass ceiling shattered? No more limiting beliefs, no more imposter syndrome, no more self-doubt, constant questioning your abilities and capabilities. Can you imagine what becomes possible for you? Can you imagine when you start to treat the performance review as a dialogue, understanding what is great about your performance in the current role, but let's talk about what is needed to get to the next level. And thirdly, what would be possible for you once you stop waiting for somebody else to choose you? I want you to imagine your career on path A, lifeline A, or lifeline B. Lifeline A, when you keep those three career killers, same thing, doing the same thing, or when you decide that today is the last day that you are going to let those three career killers depict your trajectory. And you master your mindset and you turn your performance review in a moment, a conversation, and you invite constructive feedback instead of wanting only feel good feedback. Because again, the great performance review, great to make you feel fantastic, but it will keep you stuck. And then thirdly, can you imagine choosing you and your next level self instead of waiting for permission? How does that feel in terms of control, in terms of taking back control of your career, taking back control of your trajectory? And most important of all, how would that influence and impact the rest of your life? Because our job is the majority of where we spend our time during our best years of our lives. So that's what I'm going to leave you with today, dear listeners, the three career killers. How are they showing up for you? Were you aware that these are showing up for you? And what are you going to do differently? And why? Imagine what becomes possible for you when you flip the script and take control of your career. I will see you in the next episode where I talk more about Powerhouse Code, my signature program Elevate You, and why I created this whole movement. See you on the next one. You have been listening to Unlocked Your Career by Design with Samantha Florence. If today's episode sparked something, here's your next step. Follow the show and leave a 5-star review. That's how we reach more ambitious women ready to break barriers. And if you know a colleague or friend who needs this, share it with them because lifting one woman lifts us all. Until next week, keep owning your spotlights.